Hey guys, won't be long, we're just going to share this video to a few spots. Just accept that. Okay, that should be good. All right. Oh, no. Let's go a little bit back. That's better. Can you come back even more?
Okay.
Alrighty. Hi everybody. Welcome to day 6, it is today, of the 15 Days Towards Peace and Purpose series. We just finished our 5 days of regulation, and now we're moving into 5 days talking about what's important to us and our values. Oh, and I'll just say before you go, and as we have in all the other days, we'll be posting in the comments practices each day of the rest of the series for things for you to, if you want to go deeper in what we've been talking about. So today's like discourse, and then afterwards we'll record the practice for you and pop it in the comments.
Sweet. So to start to transition us from regulation to values, firstly, I want to just kind of reiterate from our regulation series that it's our ability to downregulate, to slow down and be with ourselves such that we can feel ourselves and we can sit with, hey, what's actually truly important to me, that kind of then lets us actually start to properly understand what our values are. So regulation is like a kind of, in a way, a prerequisite for us to start to actually get into understanding our values. And then as we get clearer on that question, what's truly important to me, that then starts to become a center of regulation. It helps regulate us because it helps focus on, hey, in this situation, this is what's important to me and this stuff isn't so important. It lets me kind of filter out things that might otherwise have dysregulated me. For example, hey, actually, you know what? It doesn't matter so much to me what people think about me. What matters more is that I know that I'm in integrity, living true to myself. And that then has me less taken out by what other people are thinking about me, because I'm actually more focused on what I consider as being more truly valuable. So these things are really kind of super linked, and this is kind of why we're doing this series. So getting more into the specifics of values, right? So, values is ultimately about, well, what is it that we consider valuable, right? What's actually truly important to us? And this is clearly a really fundamental question of being alive, of being human. It's this question that has us making meaning of our lives, and having our lives be meaningful, having us be able to focus on, what's actually significant. It can be really easy to kind of lose sight of the preciousness of our life, if we don't kind of ask ourselves this question, and so it's really an important question to kind of keep living into this question. Hey, what's truly important to me? And this is not a question that I answer once and I've kind of done. It's a question that we need to kind of continuously ask ourselves. And it's a very contextual kind of question. Hey, in this particular context, in this moment, what's really important to me? And that's going to vary based on how I'm feeling. It's going to be vary based on kind of how in balance I am in my life. Like, for example, if I've just been spending all of my time like studying, maybe what's going to be important to me is to go out and be with my friends. It's going to kind of vary on context. And it's this contextualness of what our values are that in a way kind of makes them. It's not always simple to answer that question. It's a question that we have to kind of keep asking ourselves over and over, such that we kind of reach inside ourselves and go, well, now in my life, what's important to me, and now with what's going on, what's important to me, and how do I kind of keep reflecting on that too? After things have happened. Hey, in that situation, I didn't like how I was. What was actually more important in that situation? And it's this continually being in the inquiry of this question, what's truly important to me right now, that ultimately has us start to kind of live more fully our values. So let me pause at this point and see if you want to add some stuff.
I think that it's like really, can you just pop that on there? I think it's really easy to be on a treadmill, like I just kind of get this image of a mouse in a wheel running, and I think it's kind of pretty easy to be inside of a wheel that is moving very quickly, and which would have a person potentially be in dysregulation, but then could have somebody actually not living truly in alignment with what it is that they really want to be doing in this life, how and who, how they want to be behaving, the choices they want to be making, because they haven't got the time and space inside and in their outer world to really ask those important questions, and to consider that we might spend years of our lifetime like that is sad. It's really sad. And it's like, I think that we can live as if we're going to live forever, as if like it doesn't really count if I do that. We just don't know that. We do know we're not going to live forever, but we just don't really know how long we're going to be here for.
Who knows with biomedical technology? Yeah.
So there's that. And there's also a way that I almost think that values is this thing, I think a lot of people don't actually think about their values and what's truly important to them. I think that there's almost like a laziness in our attention. Like there's so much white noise that there's so much white noise, there's so much speed, there's so much to put your attention on, that I think that it's a topic, and it'll be interesting to see how many people go, oh yeah, I want to actually watch something about that, because I'm curious about that. Do people actually consider what is truly important to me, and am I living it?
Yeah. I think a really important point here is that we always have values. Like, values are the basis of our decision making, right? Like I value doing this thing over doing this thing, so based on that I do that thing, right? Just it's the not having considered like actually what is truly important to us that kind of starts to become an issue, because it's very easy just to kind of follow the thing that kind of in the moment we know is going to just give us whatever it is, the hit of pleasure, or kind of let us just kind of cope with what's going on in our lives and so on. So it's the kind of the unconsidered values. It's the values that we're just kind of enacting because that's what we're just habituated to, or we've grown up around, and it's not actually us going, well, hang on, are my actions in alignment with when I stop and pause and sit with myself, what I think is really important for my life, and so just kind of, super agree with what you're saying there, but I think it's kind of really helpful to realize that we're always prioritizing value, right? And it's, if we start to observe that, watch for it, how in my actions, How am I prioritizing value? And is it actually in alignment with what I truly want to be prioritizing, what I truly actually believe is valuable? So it's kind of, I really kind of want to emphasize that point. It's like living in the question, what's really important to me. So just kind of adding some extra pieces here. So there's a few values that I think are just objectively things that we should be prioritizing. One of which is reality. Like we want to actually value the way that reality works. Like, for example, if I eat healthy foods, I am going to be healthier, right? So it's generally good to value eating healthy foods. That's just kind of a part of how reality works, So part of, I think, choosing our values is also about paying attention to reality. Like, what's actually going on here? Another example is I'm part of a very large ecology with lots of little small ecologies. I live on a planet, I think it kind of makes sense to value what is going to be healthy for the ecology that I'm part of, because it's also actually going to help me ultimately, because if I live in a healthy ecology, I'm going to feel healthy, right? So this kind of reality principle, I think, is an important aspect of values. And pause me if there's anything you want to say here. I'm going to keep going. So another distinction I want to add here is that a lot of the time when people talk about values, I think they're really referring to kind of core values. Like, for example, I consider one of my core values kind of spiritual growth. I want to keep growing, and as a human being, I want to kind of understand myself more deeply and be in more service more deeply. That's something that I, as part of setting goals and making plans in my life, is something that I consider. It's a way that I steer my life. It's a particular compass that I want to use to steer my life. And that's different to a lot more of a kind of in the moment dynamic goal, value, I'm sorry. And that I think is also in a way kind of just as important, because it's my ability to, in a particular context, say, hang on, what's available right now that helps me regulate myself, like I said before. It helps me be able to kind of step back from the situation and not kind of get lost in it if another person is really triggered or so on. It kind of helps me live who I want to be in this moment. And that might connect to kind of this larger value, like I have this value of like spiritual growth. Well, how that might translate to me is, in the moment, I want to be a person that expresses care to people if they're in some kind of pain, if they're dysregulated and kind of in a lot of emotional volatility. I value, as a kind of someone who identifies as a spiritual person, wants to express that kind of sense of compassion. And so it's kind of as I set my core values and set that as a compass for me, how does that then translate into my day-to-day living? And that's, I think, a really important part of the inquiry of kind of, what's important to me and how do I live that ongoingly?
I like to think of it like organizing principles. For example, if I'm in conflict with Carly and I feel dysregulated, it doesn't take me very long to reorient myself towards repair, because I'm really clear what my values are in relationship. I'm really clear on what's important to me. And I have a funny joke that I say I can either be right or I can be married. And I can have a tendency to be in righteousness, and that's something I have to watch. Because I'm very clear that my value of connection is much higher than being right. And it's much higher than, me being correct about what I know. It makes it a lot easier for me to then kind of step back and just allow what is to be. Okay, so we didn't agree on this thing. Is it like really, truly, despite what my nervous system tells me, is it really the end of the world that we don't see it the same way? And that, to be able to know what my values are in relationship, helps me a lot in terms of relating with people, particularly through conflict, and when to leave relationships the same. To have known what my values are has been like a guiding, organizing principle for me. And to keep asking that question, what is truly important to me right now? What's truly important to me? It's not a question that should be asked of oneself when dysregulated, because it's unlikely to really hear a clear, true answer from the part of us that's clear, from the part of us that's truly creative and responsible.
Nice. I love that you describe values just then as this kind of guiding principle, because I think as we live in this inquiry of what's important to us, and we keep asking ourselves that question and reflecting on it, that's kind of what the values start to become. A lot of the time when people talk about their values and go through processes to elicit values, it'll be about choosing particular words. I value being authentic, I value being industrious, and I think that's kind of all well and good as long as you live in the inquiry. What does that actually mean, right?
The actionable steps.
Yeah, exactly. And let that inquiry also evolve kind of the words or the descriptions for how I'm using those words. Like another example is, for me, a core value is adventure. I love adventure. I love the idea of kind of being in new situations and having new experiences. Like yesterday, I went to the wedding of our tuk-tuk driver, and that was totally an experience of adventure for me. The kind of using that as the example, right? Of how do I turn adventure into a guiding principle? Well, I ask myself, well, what does that mean, right? And for me, adventure means stepping outside my comfort zone. It means actually taking some risks, and it means finding situations that I've never been in before. So just starting to unpack it a little bit, that helps me actually make decisions about my life. Okay, if I'm trying to orient my life towards more adventure, well, there's ways in which I need to find, somebody who's going to adventure with me, like you, right? I'm going to need to, if I want to have adventures that require me to kind of, whatever it is, travel, I'm going to need to resource myself enough to be able to do the travel. So as I'm considering the larger picture of my life, it's helping me now in a really practical kind of way start to, use that principle to steer. Yeah.
I think for us to know that, for example, when you went to that wedding yesterday, Carly wore all the tuk-tuk driver had told us that it was all black clothes. It's so hot here right now. It's I've never experienced heat like this in my life. It's feels like about 36, 37, and the humidity is at about 86%. It's wild. So Carly had all black clothes on, black long shirt, black pants, right? So it was so hot. And he was going to be at this event which he knew nobody other than our tuk-tuk driver, but it was his wedding, so it's, we know what weddings are like. It's pretty hard to talk to people, it's just so busy. So Carly and I wasn't going to go. It was you can go on your own. It's too hot for me. So plus I needed to be here with you guys at 6:30. But basically, Carly said, "Oh, I feel a bit awkward," and before he left, and something I really kind of want to point to here is that living our values doesn't necessarily feel easy, and actually it can have us be in discomfort in the moment, right? So it's in the short term or in the action of it, it can feel challenging. In fact, often it will. For me to get off my high horse that I'm right and decide actually whether I'm right or not, does this actually matter? Because me pushing my point here is actually having us move further out of connection. Why would I do that? He's heard what I've said, I'm gonna let it go. That's not an easy decision to make, by the way. There's much more parts in me who want to be right, who believe that it's the end of the world if I don't have agreement here, or if I don't hear this boundary is not understood, or whatever it is. It's not an easy choice is what I'm saying. And yesterday wasn't as like a simple example, but yesterday wasn't actually an easy choice for you. And I messaged you whilst you were there and said, you can always come back. Carly said, it's pretty awkward here. And I said, you can always come back. And Carly said, no, I'm gonna stay and be in the awkwardness for a bit longer. I want to be around when everybody starts dancing. And that's an example there of somebody choosing to be with their value for adventure over being comfortable. And then I think the next thing that's important to say though, following that is, it's like through doing things that are challenging, that are meaningful to us, like put those two things together, equals I'm actually becoming a more robust human being on the inside, and I like myself, right? So like we actually, self-esteem is a verb, right? It's not this static thing whether you have self-esteem. People say, she's got low self-esteem or he's got low self-esteem. Actually, it doesn't really work like that. Esteem is something that, like, you can imagine it like a cup being at different levels of full each day. And our esteem moves up and down like this on a daily basis. And it is everything to do with the actions, our behavior, what we do and what we don't do, and what we say and what we don't say, and the choices that we make. And whether those things negatively impact our esteem or not has everything to do with our values. It's about what we inside define as important and good and meaningful and right in the best way, like righteous in the cleanest way, noble. And actually, when we are living out of alignment with that, when we're choosing to do things that are out of alignment with that, that directly correlates with our level of self-esteem. So, and when I've done self-esteem work for myself and done it with clients, I look at their behavior and my own to have a look at where am I not living in alignment with the things that I say that I want to do, with the things that I say are important to me. I think we have the people's esteem, I think, is one of the greatest problems that we have on the planet right now. Either people have too much esteem or not enough esteem, and it's a whole other topic. And I'm really looking forward to us journeying this values chapter, because I foundationally believe, and there's a lot of research to indicate this, that values and how we live them and what we choose as our values, and being clear if our values are actually our own or if we've inherited them and they're not actually in alignment with our essence, determines how we feel about ourselves.
Yeah, so important. I think the last thing that I want to say is that, and maybe just to kind of lead on from what you were saying, right? So reiterate it a little bit. So, looking at our values and when we're not in alignment with them, that can be really uncomfortable. It kind of creates dissonance, like, I've got to kind of just be with the fact, hang on, I'm not living how I truly want to live. And then quite often our values themselves, take courage and can be challenging. And of course, we feel good about ourselves, which is then kind of has us starting to stand taller, and be more in our dignity and our nobleness and our awesomeness, right? And this is the kind of then leads to the point that I ultimately kind of want to finish with, which is that living our values ultimately is incredibly empowering, right? Because values are a real source. They're a source of energy because we feel motivated by them. Hey, like just the question of like, what's important to me? That question itself will open our hearts. If we're really asking ourselves those questions, that will light a fire in our belly. Hey, the people that I love are important to me. Living in a world of respect and equality is important to me. And it's that living into that question that then fills us, it motivates us, it inspires us. So. And that itself is like something just like beautiful that we get out of the process of the inquiry, right? And then the other aspect of where values is really empowering to us is that it gives us a sense of focus. you know, there's so much of life in a way is a lot of noise. You know, I love Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, right? So, you know, be selective about what counts for where you give your fucks, right? So there's a lot of things it's just not worth getting agitated around and spending your energy on. You know, and it's values that help us determine that.
Yeah.
You know, okay, if I know that this thing is really important to me, I can kind of start to just disregard the rest of the stuff a whole lot more. It helps create clarity. It kind of starts creating a much starker kind of contrast of what's important and what's not important, and therefore what to prioritize. And when we've only got limited energy in this life, prioritization is really key, particularly in this day and age of just like so much competing for our attention and for our energy.
Yeah.
And this is, yes, I feel really passionate about, because, you know, so much of this work that we do is about empowering people. It's about helping people step into their power to be strong leaders and to live life kind of fully experiencing all the things, the joys and the challenges, but from a place of beauty and truth and goodness.
Great. So we're looking forward to those of you who want to join us for the next few days on the journey of deep meaning, into excavating and being in the powerful question of what are my values and what is deeply important to me here. Yeah.
Great.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
See ya.
Bye.